This video is sponsored by my favorite website creator, Squarespace, the best place to go when you want to get a domain or create a gorgeous website or an online store. Happy birthday to me! Yes, this Sunday is my birthday. Give me some love. So, another very strange year has passed and it's time to take stock. I'm in a list of 15 game-changing lessons I've learned in the last year. Here we go. I feel like when shit hits the fan, the best thing to do is to either cry or laugh. A good laugh and a good cry are both such masters at releasing tension and make us drop our shoulders, take a deep breath, and get out of that narrow, headachy, tense state that we often don't even realize that we're in. And I really feel like I've aced this when I laugh until I cry. Double the fun. I'm realizing more and more how grateful I am to my teenage self. Back when I was 15 or 16, I got this idea that I should start reading novels in English. My local bookshop had almost exclusively books translated to Swedish, but they did have these Penguin Classic paperback series on a shelf in the back where I could find War and Peace, Mrs. Dalloway, Don Quixote, and the Picture of Dorian Gray, for example, in English. My first ever English language novel was Wuthering. Oh man, I understood almost nothing. I mean, even the title is hardcore, seriously. What does wuthering even mean? But for some reason I was hella determined to get through it, and I did. And from then on, I've been reading more or less everything in English, and it has totally made my life and made my career and my nomadic lifestyle so much easier. If you're not reading in English yet, recommend. One thing I've learned this year is that worrying leads to nothing good. I think that worrying is an automatic mindset for us to prepare for the worst, but when we prepare for the worst by going around thinking of our worst case scenarios over and over and how it would feel if those scenarios actually happened, we walk around living in those potential worst case no matter how much unlikely they are. So our brains are in this state of emergency, even though the emergency is both only as potential and very much a future issue. I think the number one reason why I have been able to keep my calm relatively intact this year is because I have focused on other things than the fear and the uncertainties and the worry. Another thing about worry, when I stress or get anxious, my body reacts instantly. My stomach becomes sensitive, I get a stiff back and neck, my skin feels tight and irritated, I get bloated like you wouldn't believe. My body sometimes reacts quicker than my own mind, so I've learned to read my physical signs. Oh, my skin feels a bit inflamed, maybe time for a bit of relaxing me time. Let's all take a moment and appreciate the internet. Can you imagine this year without Netflix, without Calm and Kind podcasts, without audiobooks and The Queen's Gambit, without Zoom, or the horror without Spotify? I'm just gonna put this out there, good Wi-Fi is at this point more or less a human right. Who's with me on that? Nothing takes me out of the craziness around me as much as an old book. Not a book about old times, but a book actually written during those times. For me, the quickest escape route out of a stressful day has always been books written by other people in other places a long time ago. It's strangely comforting relating to characters from well beyond the grave. Why is that? I've said it before and I'll say it again, everyone needs a David in their life. This last year without him would have sucked so hard. So here's what I'm thinking. In the near future, when it's time to start building those AI companion robots, everyone has a best robot friend, let's model the robot on David. If Wi-Fi is a human right, I think having a David's gonna be one too. Here's another thing I've learned. If you live in a rat-infested, moldy, tiny flat with a super creepy landlord and cockroaches as your flatmates for years, you will then appreciate any other flat. Which is my way of saying that going through shitty times in unhappy living situations will make you appreciate the good times when they arrive so much more. I still get so happy every time I go to the cinema and buy the popcorn without worrying about money, you know? So struggling a little bit when I was younger is something that I'm happy that I experienced. I never thought that anything like this would happen. Maybe in the distant future, but definitely not 2020. So I guess what we can learn from the shock of it all is that anything, good or bad, can happen at any time. So although I'm a hardcore planner, some things we can't plan for, which is scary, but also kind of exciting. Which brings me to something I felt incredibly strong this whole year, and that is how grateful I am. I can get grateful for the tiniest, soppiest things nowadays. My favorite teapot, that my bed gets covered in sunshine in the afternoon, someone making the effort of dressing up for their daily walk in the park, Ted Lasso, huh? Am I right? I've learned to appreciate David's ugly dancing for the masterpiece of art that it is. And I mean toilet paper. Come on, who's with me on that one? You can't please everyone. Some people won't like you or your work or your sense of humor or whatever. We can't smooth out our edges and quirks so much that we lose our personality and character and flavor. I mean, look at oregano. Oregano is the best herb in the world. It's one of the most delicious flavors and smells ever. Still, there are people out there who hate oregano. Who knew? Doesn't mean that oregano should try to taste and smell less, you know? So besides from Corona and quarantine being the obvious main focus, this year has been a lot about shining a light on systemic racism. Of course, I knew racism was extremely prevalent and damaging even before this year, but what the conversation has meant for me personally is that I've discussed it more. I've educated myself and read up on it, and emotionally it has occupied me hugely. It's something that's constantly on my mind, and I'm guessing it's the same for most of us, and hopefully that means that we're all becoming a part of the solution moving forward. You know, I'm both a consumer and producer of stories, and I think storytelling by far is the most powerful way to change society. So I believe that us reading and watching and consuming stories told by the people who are the victims of systemic racism is one of the most important things we can do to change the system at its core. So if you have any recommendations for movies, TV, books, podcasts or whatever, let me know. I love Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. Not only is it discussing racism in a fresh, new, original way, it's also such a well-written, entertaining and tensiony thing to read. Recommend, recommend. Don't try to change people. Let's adapt instead. People are weird. All of us are. Some we get on with, some we don't. There's still always a way to be polite and kind. Why get annoyed or frustrated by something that we can change? When you buy Sainsbury's Taste the Difference strawberries, you really can taste the difference. Okay, this is a big one. I couldn't be happier to have learned this and put it to the test lately. Here goes. I trust in my own ability. This year, whenever I've been so exhausted or stressed or overworked that I've started doubting my plan, I've just decided to shut down my brain, ignore the doubts, and simply trust that if I stop thinking, my routine and my intuition will take over and get the job done. Overthinking is the source of a lot of evils, especially when trying to work, study, or be creative. I'm trusting that my years of practice and routine has created this skill so I don't have to be so on top of things mentally all the time. I can switch on the autopilot. And even though it feels like you're creating shit while you're doing it, it doesn't mean the result will be shit. So this year, I haven't second-guessed myself nearly as much as I used to do, because I trust in my skill. I got this, and so do you. You haven't forgotten, right, that it's your girl Jenny's birthday on Sunday. If you want to give me a little birthday present, I'd love it if you'd check out David's and my The Good Times podcast. We hang out with our listeners every Monday morning, starting the week out in a happy and positive way. And it's really cool to see that what used to be a small, very tight-knit community growing into a quite large, tight-knit community. So a big thank you to everyone who's already a listener. We have an episode called How to Set Goals, where I talk more about what I've learned and how I set goals for the future. I'll leave a link below to that. Go watch it and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Do you want to create a beautiful site and maybe start your own business-themed blog? If so, you should definitely do it with Squarespace. They have great blogging tools to share your stories, photos, and videos to make it easy to reach your audience. You can also auto-post your content to Twitter, Facebook, or Tumblr, and simply schedule your posts for them to be properly tagged, and descriptions and titles will show up correctly. You can of course add your social media accounts to your site so that it's easy for your readers to find you everywhere. Squarespace also have great traffic analytics so that you can see how many people are visiting your site, how long they're staying for, where they're coming from, and what they're interested in. Like fashion, food, or maybe interior design, for example. So what are you waiting for? Go get your free trial today at squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/JennyMustard to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. That's it for me. Time to go celebrate. Champagne and strawberries and making out with David. That's the plan. Love you guys. Puss puss and grattis på födelsedagen to me!
Why do people want to live in the now? Like, that just means that you end up with a broken leg somewhere, or like burn all your money on something stupid because it felt good in the now. Those are the people who like, they drink every Tuesday, every Wednesday, and every Thursday because, hey, there's always a happy hour somewhere in the world.